The night sky above the abandoned colony world was thick with clouds hiding the stars. The silence of the ruins was broken only by the crunch of boots on shattered stone. A small squad of human soldiers moved carefully through the empty streets, their rifles raised, their eyes scanning the shadows. This planet had been forgotten long ago, but orders had sent them here to investigate strange signals. None of them expected to find life, but then they saw him. At first, it was only a figure moving between the ruins, tall and broad, his armor battered and scarred. His steps were heavy, yet unsteady, as if he carried a great weight on his shoulders. When he turned, the soldiers froze. His face, pale and marked by war, was unmistakable. He was no ordinary alien soldier. He was a general. Every human knew his name. He had commanded fleets that crushed worlds, led armies that left colonies in ash. To see him alive, here of all places, was beyond belief. And stranger still, he was alone. The squad leader raised his weapon, his voice sharp. "Hands where I can see them." The general lifted his hands slowly. His glowing eyes, once filled with arrogance, now looked hollow. His armor bore the marks of recent battles, burn marks, shattered plating, streaks of dried blood. He was a warrior who had survived something terrible, but not without cost. "I am not here to fight," the alien general said, his deep voice rough with exhaustion. "I am here to ask for protection." The human stared at him in disbelief. Protection? From what? He had been the terror of their fleets, the symbol of their greatest enemy. And now, he stood before them as a fugitive. The squad leader narrowed his eyes. "Why should we not kill you where you stand?" The general's lips curled into something between a grim smile and a pained grimace. "Because if you do, you will never learn what I carry. Hide me, and I will give you what no human has ever touched." The words struck them like lightning. Suspicion burned in their minds, but so did curiosity. Soldiers exchanged quick glances, unease flickering across their faces. Was this a trap, or was this real? The general lowered his hands, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "I am hunted by my own kind. They will not stop until I am dead. They fear what I have taken. Something ancient, something powerful. I cannot keep it. But you..." His glowing eyes locked on the humans, sharp with meaning. "You can." The squad leader's grip on his weapon tightened. His training told him to capture or kill. But his instincts, the very human instincts that had kept his kind alive through countless wars, whispered something else. This moment was different. Dangerous, yes, but also important. The silence stretched as the ruins loomed around them, broken towers standing like grave markers of forgotten lives. The general stood tall, but there was no strength in his shoulders, no command in his posture. He was not the untouchable figure of war stories. He was a man on the edge, broken, desperate. Finally, the leader spoke. "If this is a trick, you'll die. If it isn't, then you had better prove your words." The general bowed his head slightly. "I will." The squad moved cautiously, forming a circle around him as they led him back through the ruins. Every step was filled with tension. The humans whispered to each other, their doubts sharp. "Why would he come to us?" one muttered. "He's lying. He must be." "Nope, look at him. He's running from something." The general said nothing, but he heard every word. His silence was heavy, his eyes scanning the dark horizon as if expecting enemies to appear at any moment. As they reached the old colony outpost, the commander of the squad finally asked the question burning in all their minds. "What is it? What did you steal?" The general looked at him for a long moment, then shook his head. "Not here, not now. If they find me, if they find you, all of us will die. But if you hide me, if you protect me, I will show you. I will give you a gift that no human has ever held." The humans stood still, their breaths caught. There was weight in his words, not just desperation, but truth. Something in his eyes told them this was no simple trick. Whatever he carried, whatever secret burned in his chest, it was real. And for the first time, the humans realized the truth. If even his own empire wanted him dead, then the secret he carried was not just dangerous. It was something that could change everything. The night winds howled through the ruins, carrying the scent of dust and smoke. The humans looked at one another, torn between fear and temptation. To trust him was madness, but to refuse him might be even worse. The squad leader finally lowered his rifle. "Then you'll stay with us. But know this, if you betray us, if you try to turn on us, I will not hesitate to kill you." The alien general gave a slow nod. "I would expect nothing less." And with those words, the deal was made. The galaxy did not know it yet. But in that ruined colony, under the shadow of broken towers, a bargain had been struck that would change the fate of both humans and aliens forever. The old colony outpost was silent, its walls cracked and its lights long dead. Only the flicker of portable lamps lit the dusty halls where the humans now camped. It was here, in the broken heart of a forgotten world, that they chose to hide the alien general. But there was no peace inside. The squad kept their weapons close, their eyes sharper than ever. Some refused to sleep, others muttered angrily under their breath. The presence of the alien general among them was like a fire hidden under dry leaves. Quiet now, but ready to burn at any moment. He sat apart from them, in the corner of the room, his broad shoulders hunched, his armor dented and scarred. His glowing eyes reflected the lamplight, unblinking, cold, yet strangely weary. He did not speak unless spoken to, and even then his words were heavy, slow, deliberate. The humans whispered about him when they thought he could not hear. "This is madness," one soldier hissed. "He's the butcher of Goros. He killed thousands of us. Why keep him alive?" another snapped. "If command finds out, they'll execute us all." The squad leader silenced them with a glare, but even he could not hide his doubt. Every instinct told him not to trust the enemy, yet something about the general's eyes, something about his exhaustion, kept him from pulling the trigger. That night, as the others slept fitfully, the commander approached the alien. His voice was low, steady. "Why us? Why humans? Why not run to your own kind?" The general's gaze shifted toward him, sharp and unreadable. For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the faint hum of the lamp. Finally he spoke. "Because my kind wants me dead." The commander frowned. "Why?" The general leaned forward, his voice rough, almost a growl. "I took something from them, something ancient, something they fear. They would rather destroy me than let it fall into human hands." The word sent a chill through the commander. "And you expect me to believe this?" "You don't have to believe me," the general said flatly. "But when they come for me, and they will, you'll see the truth." The commander studied him, searching for lies, but found only exhaustion and certainty. He wanted to demand more, but before he could speak, the general closed his eyes and leaned back against the wall. Their conversation was over. The next day, the unease grew worse. Scouts reported strange readings at the edge of the ruins, movement where no life should be. The humans grew restless, their fear mixing with anger. One soldier finally snapped, pointing his rifle at the alien. "He's a curse. He's brought them here." The general did not move. His glowing eyes opened slowly, calm and sharp. "If they have found me, it is not because of you. It is because they never stop hunting." The commander shoved the soldier's rifle down. "Enough. He stays alive. That's an order." But doubt remained. As the hours dragged on, the general finally spoke again, his deep voice cutting through the silence. "You wonder why I offered you a gift. You wonder if it is a trick. But understand this. Your kind has always been underestimated. That is why I chose you." The humans stared, some in disbelief, some in anger. The commander folded his arms. "You talk like you know us." The general's eyes glowed brighter for a moment. "I studied you. I fought you. I watched your soldiers rise again when they should have fallen. You are fragile, but you do not break. That is why my people fear you. That is why they will never let you touch what I have taken." The room grew heavy with his words. A few soldiers lowered their eyes, uncertain. The commander felt the weight of truth in them, even if he did not want to admit it. That night, as the wind howled through the broken colony, the humans took shifts keeping watch. The general did not sleep. He sat still, silent like a statue of war, but his eyes never left the shadows outside. Near midnight, the commander approached again. His voice was low, careful. If what you say is true, then why offer it to us? Why not keep it for yourself? The general's reply came after a long pause. Because some things are too dangerous to hold, and because once a human touches it, the galaxy will change forever. The commander's breath caught. The weight of those words pressed on him like stone. He wanted to ask what the gift was, what it looked like, why it mattered. But the sound of distant thunder cut him off. Except it wasn't thunder. It was engines. The humans scrambled to the windows, peering through cracks in the ruins. Dark shapes moved in the distance, glowing faintly in the night. Dropships. Alien dropships. The general rose to his feet, his massive frame casting long shadows across the wall. His voice was grim, steady. They found me. The humans tightened their grips on their rifles. Fear and fury mixed in their eyes. The commander glanced at the general, then at his soldiers. Get ready. If they want him, they'll have to go through us. For the first time, the general's expression changed. The faintest trace of respect flickered across his scarred face. And in that ruined outpost, surrounded by shadows and hunted by enemies, an unlikely alliance was about to be tested. The ruined outpost groaned under the wind, as if the planet itself remembered the weight of war. Inside, the humans prepared for an attack that had not yet come. Their weapons were loaded, their eyes fixed on the shadows outside. But the greater tension sat in the room itself, heavy and unspoken. The alien general. He stood in the center of the chamber, silent, massive, his armor scarred and cracked. Every glance toward him was filled with suspicion, yet none could deny. His presence carried something deeper than fear. It carried secrets. When the hours passed and no enemy broke through, the commander finally turned to him. His voice was low but firm. If they want you this badly, then tell us why. What is it you stole from them? The general's glowing eyes narrowed. He studied the humans one by one, his gaze sharp and unreadable, before finally speaking. It is not a weapon, he said. His voice was steady, but the weight of it made the room colder. Not in the way you think. It is older than my empire, older than your species, older than any name written in the stars. It is knowledge. The humans exchanged uneasy looks. One soldier scoffed, his voice sharp. Knowledge? You risked everything for some ancient scrolls? The general's head turned toward him, and the flicker in his glowing eyes silenced the man. Not scrolls, not words. It is a fragment of something built before any of us. A relic left by a race so old even my people call them ghosts. They hid their secrets in vaults sealed with codes we barely understand, but one vault was breached. And what lay inside? His voice trailed off, heavy with memory. The commander pressed. What was inside? The general looked directly at him. A core, a living machine. Not metal, not flesh, but something between. It pulses with energy no one can explain. To touch it is to feel the stars move through your veins. It is forbidden, even for my kind to hold, but I did. And now they will hunt me until the void itself takes me. The room fell silent. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. The soldiers stared, struggling to comprehend his words. The commander's eyes narrowed. Why offer this to us? The general stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Because humans are different. Your kind has always been underestimated, mocked, treated as less. My people see you as fragile, short-lived, reckless. But I saw something else in you. I saw soldiers stand when they should have fallen. I saw colonies rebuild from ashes. I saw your fleets burn and still come back stronger. You are persistent. The core needs hands that will not break. And that is why I offer it to you. The soldiers shifted uneasily. Some looked at the commander, with disbelief, others with fear. One whispered, It's a trap. He'll destroy us with it. Another shook his head. What if it's real? What if this is our chance? The commander stood still, his mind racing. His soldiers' instincts told him to distrust, to guard, to assume the worst. Yet something in the general's eyes, something in his tone, struck like truth. The princess of his people would never have dared such defiance. His fellow generals would have chosen death before betrayal. Yet here this alien stood, handing humanity a choice that could shift the galaxy. But before he could speak, the sound of distant engines roared again, this time closer. The humans rushed to the windows, peering into the black sky. Lights streaked downward, dropships cutting through the clouds. Dust rose as a landing craft touched down in the ruins beyond. "They're here," a soldier hissed, his knuckles white on his rifle. The general's expression did not change, but his glowing eyes sharpened. "You see now. They would send entire fleets to end me. They do not fear me. They fear what I carry." The commander turned, his voice steady but hard. "If this gift is real, then prove it. Show us." The general hesitated, then slowly lifted a metal container from his belt. Its surface was etched with symbols that glowed faintly, shifting like living lines. He pressed his palm against the surface, and with a hiss the container unfolded. Inside lay a sphere the size of a human heart. It pulsed softly, glowing with colors that shifted like a living storm. Blue, silver, gold, light rippling across the walls. The air hummed, vibrating with power, as if the relic itself breathed. Every human froze, their weapons lowered unconsciously. The glow touched their faces, filling their eyes with awe and fear. The general's voice was quiet now, almost reverent. "This is what no human has ever touched, and if you choose to accept it, nothing in the galaxy will ever be the same." The commander stared at the relic, his chest heavy with the weight of choice. To touch it might mean power beyond imagination, or destruction beyond repair. But as the enemy dropships closed in, the decision could no longer wait. For the first time in history, humanity stood at the edge of the forbidden, and the next step would decide everything. The sphere pulsed with living light, its glow painting the cracked walls of the outpost in shifting silver and gold. The humans stood frozen, staring at it as though it were a piece of the stars themselves. For a moment, even the sound of engines outside seemed far away. Then the wind howled, and the world snapped back to danger. The commander shut the container, quickly, his eyes sharp. "They'll come for it. They'll come for him. And if we're not ready, we'll all die." The squad scattered, rushing to defensive positions. Weapons were primed, barricades built from old crates and fallen stone. The soldiers' faces were pale, but their eyes burned. They were soldiers of Earth. They had stood against worse odds before. Or at least, they told themselves that. The alien general stood in the center of the room, silent, his massive frame, a shadow among the lamps. He did not flinch as weapons were aimed in every direction. His glowing eyes flicked toward the humans, unreadable, as though weighing them in silence. But not every human trusted him. One soldier, his hands shaking, turned his rifle on the general. His voice cracked, raw with fear. "This is all because of him. He brought them here. He's using us." The room went still. The commander barked, "Stand down!" But the soldier's voice rose, desperate. "We're guarding the butcher of our people. You can't see it, sir, but he's leading us into a trap. The moment we trust him, we're dead." The general's gaze shifted, calm and unblinking. He made no move to defend himself, no words of denial. His silence was heavier than any threat. Then, without warning, the air shook with the impact of something heavy. Dust rained from the ceiling. The floor trembled. Outside, alien dropships had landed. The soldier's panic snapped. His finger twitched on the trigger, and the commander slammed his rifle aside. The shot went wide, scorching the wall. Before the argument could explode, the first breach charge hit. The walls burst inward in a storm of dust and fire. Figures poured through the gaps, alien hunters in dark armor, their weapons glowing with crackling energy. The humans fired back instantly. The room roared with gunfire, beams of energy cutting through smoke. Shadows clashed in flashes of red and blue, and in the center of it all the general moved. He tore through the first attacker with his bare hands, ripping the weapon free and turning it on the others. His roar shook the chamber, a sound of raw fury and defiance. He fought not like a hunted man, but like a storm unleashed, every strike precise, every motion a reminder of why he had once commanded fear across the stars. The humans saw him fight, and for a heartbeat, doubt wavered. Was he their enemy, or their only chance to survive? The battle raged, brutal and close. A human soldier fell with a cry, a beam cutting across his chest. Another screamed as he pulled a grenade pin, throwing it into the breach. The explosion shook the room, scattering rubble and screams alike. The commander fought like a man possessed, his rifle blazing, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Hold the line, don't let them through." But even as the rebels fell, more poured in. It was not just an assault, it was a hunt. The general fought beside the commander, their backs nearly touching. At one point, an alien hunter lunged at the commander, blade raised high. Before it could strike, the general's arm shot out, crushing the attacker's throat in his clawed grip. He met the commander's eyes briefly, his voice low but sharp. "You see now why they fear this gift." The commander did not answer, but something shifted in his gaze. As the last of the first wave fell, silence returned for a moment. Smoke curled in the air. Bodies lay across the floor, human and alien alike. The squad breathed hard, their eyes wide, their uniforms scorched. Then came the sound no one wanted to hear. Footsteps in the corridor. More were coming. Many more. The traitorous soldier who had turned his weapon on the general earlier stumbled, back, his face pale. "We can't win this, we'll all die here." The general turned his glowing eyes on him, his voice low and steady. "Then die standing." Something in those words silenced the man. The commander's jaw tightened. He looked at the surviving soldiers, bloodied but unbroken, then at the general. For the first time, he gave a short nod. "Then we fight. Together." The general returned the nod. The relic pulsed faintly in its container, as though it too waited for the choice to be made. And in the dark ruins of that forgotten world, humans and alien fought side by side. Not as allies, not as friends, but as survivors standing on the edge of history. The ruined outpost shook as another explosion ripped through the walls. Dust and sparks rained from the ceiling, flames licking at broken beams. The humans held their line, rifles flashing, grenades bursting in the dark corridors, but wave after wave of hunters kept coming. The air stank of blood, smoke, and ozone. The commander barked orders between bursts of gunfire. "Left flank, hold, don't let them breach the core room." His voice was hoarse but steady, a lifeline that kept his soldiers from breaking. They were tired, wounded, but still fighting. Always fighting. The alien general fought beside them, his massive frame moving like a weapon forged for war. Every strike from his claws, every blast from captured alien rifles dropped another attacker. Yet even he, the feared butcher of worlds, began to notice something strange. The humans would not stop. One soldier was struck in the side, blood spilling across his armor. Instead of falling back, he jammed his shoulder against the doorway, firing with one arm while holding the breach with his body. Another soldier, her face burned, refused to retreat. She dragged a wounded comrade behind cover, then stood again, rifle shaking but still firing. The general glanced at them between his own strikes, and for the first time in his long life of war, he felt something alien to himself. Respect. His kind would never have fought like this. They prized strength, honor, victory. But these humans, they fought simply because they refused to fall. The corridor shook again as another breach, charge tore open the far wall. Hunters poured through, their blades glowing red, their war cries sharp and cruel. The humans turned as one, unleashing a storm of bullets and fire. Many fell, but more pushed forward. The commander himself charged into the breach, swinging the butt of his rifle into a hunter's jaw before blasting another point blank. "Push them back," he roared. "Push them back or die on your feet." The general followed him, cutting through the attackers with brutal precision. For the first time, they moved like a unit, man and alien fighting as one. Their enemies faltered, not because they were weaker, but because the humans refused to give ground. Minutes bled into eternity. The outpost was collapsing, its walls scarred with fire, its halls littered with bodies. The hunters should have won by now. By every rule of war, the humans should have broken, but still they fought. Still, they held. And the general understood. This was why his empire feared humanity. Not their weapons, not their ships, not their numbers. It was this, their refusal to surrender, their will that burned even when their bodies failed. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest. But they were the hardest to kill. As the battle raged, the general fought harder, something inside him shifting. He was no longer fighting only for survival. He was fighting for the humans beside him, the fragile soldiers who had risked everything to shelter him. At last, the hunters began to falter. Their war cries grew uncertain, their strikes weaker. They had expected an easy kill, not this storm of defiance. One by one, they fell or fled, dragging their wounded back into the shadows. Silence slowly crept into the ruins. Smoke hung in the air. The commander lowered his rifle, his chest heaving, blood streaking his cheek. Around him, his squad slumped against the walls, coughing, bleeding, but alive. Alive when they should not have been. The general stood among them, his armor cracked, his claws dripping red. His glowing eyes flicked from one human to another and finally settled on the commander. His voice was low, heavy with something like awe. "Now I see," he said. The commander wiped the blood from his face, his voice rough. "See what?" The general stepped closer, towering over him. "Why they fear you, why they hunt you. It is not your ships, it is not your weapons. It is this." He gestured to the wounded soldiers who still held their rifles, to the burned and broken men and women who still stood tall. "You do not know when to stop. You do not know how to break." The soldiers exchanged glances, exhausted but proud. For once, none argued, none doubted. The commander met the general's eyes, his voice steady despite his weariness. "That's what it means to be human." The general gave a slow nod. For the first time, his expression softened. No longer arrogance, no longer cold distance, something else. Respect, perhaps even something more dangerous. Trust. Outside, the night was still. The enemy had been driven back but not destroyed. They would return. And when they did, the humans knew the fight would be even harder. But now something had changed. The fugitive general no longer saw them as fragile prey. He saw them as something the galaxy had overlooked for too long. And for the first time he wondered, not if humanity could survive the gift he carried, but if perhaps they were the only ones worthy of it. The battle was over, but the ruins still echoed with its fury. Smoke drifted through shattered walls, carrying the stench of burned metal and blood. Human soldiers slumped against the rubble, their uniforms torn, their bodies bruised, but their eyes still sharp. They had survived what should have been impossible. The alien general stood in the middle of the wreckage, his massive frame scarred and bloodied. He looked not like the proud commander of old, but like a man who had seen the impossible and lived. His glowing eyes swept across the squad, and for the first time in his long life he felt something strange in his chest. Respect for humans. Respect that no other alien in his empire had ever allowed themselves to feel. The commander approached him, his rifle still in hand, his voice low but steady. "They'll come back. With more ships, more soldiers. This won't end here." The general nodded slowly. "No, it won't. Not until the gift is claimed." The squad stiffened. They had almost forgotten the relic in the chaos of battle. Now, as the general reached for the container strapped to his armor, their eyes fixed on it, hearts pounding with equal parts fear and hunger. The general's voice was rough but steady. I could not keep it. My people would never allow it. But I swore to myself that if I fell, it would not return to their hands. Better to give it to those who will use it, not as a chain, but as a fire. The commander's eyes narrowed. And you think humans are that fire? The general studied him for a long moment. You bleed, you break, and yet you rise again. That is not strength of the body. That is strength of the soul. The relic was never meant for cowards. It was meant for those who endure. He pressed his hand to the container. The metal hissed as it opened, revealing the sphere once more. Its light filled the ruined hall, brighter now, as if awakened by the blood spilled in its shadow. Silver and gold ripples shimmered across the walls, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with a deep hum. The humans shielded their eyes, their breaths caught. None of them had ever seen anything so alive, so powerful, so utterly beyond their understanding. It was not a weapon, yet it felt like one. Not a tool, yet it promised creation and destruction in the same heartbeat. The general held it out with both hands. The light painted his face, making the scars on his skin look like rivers of fire. His voice was almost reverent. No human has ever touched it. No alien ever wanted you to. But today, the galaxy changes. The commander hesitated. His heart pounded, his instincts screamed warnings. Every soldier around him seemed frozen, staring at the sphere as though it might burn them alive. But deep inside he knew, if they refused, everything they had just fought for would mean nothing. Slowly, he extended his hand. The moment his fingers brushed the sphere, the world shifted. The relic pulsed, sending a wave of light through the room. The commander gasped, his body locking as energy surged into him. Visions flashed in his mind, stars collapsing, worlds born, civilizations rising and falling like waves. He saw battles fought long before humanity had existed, saw beings of light building structures larger than suns, saw their fall into silence and dust. The squad stepped back in shock, shielding their eyes as the glow spread, bathing the human in a halo of light. His veins glimmered faintly, his heartbeat echoing like distant thunder. For a moment he was no longer just a soldier. He was a fragment of something greater. Then, as quickly as it began, the light dimmed. The commander staggered, gasping for breath, his hand trembling as he held the sphere. But he was still standing, still alive. The general's eyes widened. Awe filled his voice. You survived. The humans looked at their commander with shock and fear, whispering to each other. He touched it and lived. The commander tightened his grip on the relic, his voice hoarse but steady. This is ours now. The general bowed his head, a gesture no human had ever seen from one of his kind. Then the galaxy will never be the same again. My people will fear you even more. Others will come for you. But you have proven what none of us ever believed, that humanity was worthy. The commander looked around at his wounded soldiers, at the broken ruins filled with the bodies of their enemies. They had paid for this moment in blood, and they would pay again. But something had changed. Something irreversible. The relic pulsed, softly in his hand like a heartbeat in sync with his own. The princesses of alien courts, the generals of alien fleets, the rulers of distant empires, they would all learn of this night. They would learn that humans had touched the forbidden, that humans had claimed what others had feared, and when they learned, the galaxy would tremble. The commander raised his eyes, his voice calm but filled with steel. Let them come. And in the silence that followed, even the alien general felt, the future had shifted. Humanity had stepped into a story that would echo through the stars.